Today I'm making a rose face wash. So I have made a face wash before, but I've done it more in the form of a lotion type cleanser. This is more similar to a shower gel, but obviously nice and gentle for the face. The first thing we need to do though is calculate the active surfactant matter, because we want it nice and cleansing, but we also want it very gentle. So to do this, we have this calculation which I'm showing here, and what I do is take the ASM, the active surfactant matter of my two chosen surfactants, and then I need to do a calculation. So I'm using coco glucoside with an ASM of 55%. You can usually find this on the manufacturer's website. This is the total active surfactant matter percentage that is in that surfactant. And then I've got cocamidopropyl betaine with an ASM of 30. That means that there's 30% active surfactant matter in the cocamidopropyl betaine. So for a face wash, I need a total active surfactant matter for the final product to be within the 8 to 10% range. That keeps it nice and gentle whilst still gives it a bit of foaming and cleansing properties. So we figure this out by moving the decimal point 2 to the left, giving us the active surfactant matter as a decimal value. So coco glucoside is 55%. If you move the decimal point 2 to the left, that's 0.55. Cocamidopropyl betaine, 30% equals 0.30. Then you need to multiply the decimal figure by the percentage that you intend to use it at. So I intend to use coco glucoside at 12%. So I would do 0.55 times 12, and that gives me a 6.6% active surfactant matter that will be in my final product of coco glucoside. Do the same for cocamidopropyl betaine, 6%, so that's 0.30 times 6, which gives you an active surfactant matter of cocamidopropyl betaine in your finished product of 1.8%. Then you need to add them together to get the total for your formula. So we've got 6.6 plus 1.8 gives us a total ASM for the whole formula of 8.4%, and that falls nicely within our 8 to 10% range. If you wanted a bit more foaming, a bit more cleansing, then you can up this within that range if you want to by tweaking the percentage of each. So let's get on with it. The formula's just there on the right for you to refer to. Right now I'm working on phase A and I'm adding my coco glucoside. This is a mild and gentle foaming non-ionic surfactant that cleanses, and it also helps to emulsify other ingredients, and it builds product viscosity. And then I'm adding cocamidopropyl betaine, which is another mild, gentle surfactant. This one's amphoteric. It's very hydrating and it helps with product viscosity, and it also helps to draw dirt and impurities to the surface of the skin to cleanse and remove them. So that's your surfactant phase. Now we move on to phase B, which is our water phase. And the first thing I'm adding is our humectant vegetable glycerin. And to that I need to add a thickener. I've chosen Solagum AX because I absolutely love the way it performs, but you can use xanthan gum if you prefer. Xanthan gum soft or xanthan gum clear are higher quality ones to use, so I'd recommend those. Solagum's basically a coated xanthan gum made of two polymers that can be processed hot or cold. It's very water soluble and it can be used to thicken and create a silky gel. To that I have also added some mica because I do want a bit of colour in my face wash, and I've done this at 0.1% because you really don't need much to add quite a lot of colour. And the thing with mica is it can be quite heavy, so it can sink to the bottom if you use too much. You want to make sure you're using just enough that the xanthan gum, solid gum, or whatever thickener you're using can suspend it within the formula. So what you need to do is mix this very, very thoroughly to create what we call a slurry, and this just helps it disperse within the water easily, which is what I'm adding now. The water is your solvent used to dilute the other ingredients, also provide hydration. And then I'm also adding rose hydrolase. You can use one or the other of these waters, or both, it's up to you in whatever proportions you like. Rose hydrolase is a distilled rose-infused water, and I'm using it to add scent and skin benefits. Rose water can help to lightly moisturise the skin, remove impurities and soothe dry, damaged skin, or help with conditions such as acne, eczema and psoriasis. So once you've added your water to your glycerin slurry, you want to mix this very, very thoroughly so that you can create the gel. And this is what solid gum does really, really well, because it's very, very water soluble. I'd say more so than xanthan gum. So it doesn't clump up at all, and you get a really smooth, silky gel with it. The only thing to consider is that when using solid gum, I do find you tend to need a little bit more in order to get the same kind of thickness. So if you can't get hold of this and you are using xanthan gum instead, I test it out between 1 and 1.5% and see what thickness you get before adding more. And this is what it looks like. And there's no heating in this recipe, it's all cold processed. So now we need to add our surfactant phase to our water phase. We're doing it this way round, even though it's a little bit more awkward to get the surfactants out of the beaker, because if you add the water into the surfactants, you are just going to kick up an enormous amount of foam and bubbles, and it's just going to be really hard to get those out again. So by adding the surfactants into the water, you can control that a little bit more. You might want to use a spatula just to make sure you get everything out of that beaker. And then you need to give it a very thorough stir, but gently. If you do find you kick up bubbles whilst doing this, you can just spritz it with a little bit of 99% isopropyl alcohol, and that will just disperse them for you. Once that's thoroughly combined, you will need to check and adjust your pH. Cocoa glucoside has a very, very high pH, and some of the ingredients in our phase C, which you see me adding here, are quite sensitive to very high pHs, though they do work in a high pH range. So it's good to get that accurate before you add them, which is why I've put them in a final phase, even though the whole thing is cold processed. So take your pH, you'll likely need to adjust it down with a citric acid solution. You can find a video on pH linked below. I did one earlier that tells you everything you need to know about that. Adjust your pH, and then you can add your panthenol, which soothes and softens the skin by locking moisture inside. Your saccharide isomerate plus, a favourite ingredient of mine because it's a powerful moisturiser that penetrates deep into the skin with instant effect, and it also continues to work even after you've rinsed it off. That requires a pH between 3 and 6.5, and you'd usually add it to the cool down phase. Then our preservative is Salagard PCG. This is a fully water soluble broad spectrum preservative. It's extremely easy to use for beginners, and it works in a wide pH range of 3 to 10, but also add it to cool down phase. So once all of those are added, you saw me mix that really, really well. Do a final pH check just to make sure that it's within range. For face products, I like to be between 4.5 and 5. And then you can bottle it up, and you see it's got quite a bit more foam than the usual cleansers I do, and some bubbles, and it really does cleanse the face beautifully, and you get all the benefits from the D-panthenol, saccharide isomerate plus, and also the rose hydrolase, amongst all the other ingredients. I do really like this face wash. I'm going to sign off now because it's thundering outside and I don't even know if you can hear me anymore. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all the usual things that YouTubers tell you to do, but it does really help. Thanks for watching, and if you want any more exclusive content, you can find it on my Patreon. All the links are below, including some discounts to some really good suppliers, so go check them out, and I'll see you in the next one.